Reading from Seth-Dreams and Projections of Consciousness by Jane Roberts. More on dream projections in Chapter 20. From excerpt 265, 1966, labeled Instructions for Projection from Trance and Dream States. Seth says, "Whatever information I can give you will be of great practical benefit. I do not want either of you traveling about unless you know what you are doing. Again, I want to mention the matter of subconscious fabrications. Initially, particularly, you will meet with them. You must remember that you are wandering in completely different dimensions, and the rules with which you are familiar simply do not apply. You may then encounter images that are subconsciously formed, quite valid images that belong in another dimension, or constructions created by others in other systems. For any control at all, you must learn to distinguish one from the other. Again, if you meet a disturbing image, you must first will it to disappear. If it is a subconscious construction of your own, it will vanish. But if you do not will it to disappear or realize its nature, then you must deal with it. I have told you that the form in which you are traveling can be a tip-off to you. If your levitation experience seems to carry you outside of the solar system, then you know that you are in the third form, and that your abilities for the time are almost limitless, comparatively speaking. Any images you see here must be accepted. It does no good to call these forms hallucinations, for they are no more hallucinations than the chair in which my friend Rupert now sits. Rupert told one of your friends to respect physical reality. Whether or not the automobile is a sensory hallucination, it can kill you, he said. And I tell you that whether or not these projection images are hallucinations, they can be dangerous, and you must respect the reality in which they exist. I want to be sure that you realize that some of these constructions will belong to other systems. You are safe as long as you do not meddle. You may explore, and freely, and that is all. Now, here are my instructions. You may induce a medium trance in whatever way you choose. On occasion, this will be almost spontaneous, as you know. For best results in the beginning, make a projection attempt when you feel slightly drowsy, but pleasantly so. When you have induced the trance state, then begin to examine your own subjective feelings until you find recognition of the inner self. This involves a recognition of yourself as distinct from the flesh fibers in which you reside. Then begin to imagine this inner self rising upward. You should experience at this point an internal sense of motion. This motion may be from side to side as you gently shake yourself loose. It may instead be a rushing upward. Whichever motion you experience, there will be a moment when you feel your identity and consciousness definitely withdrawing from the physical organism. Before you begin the experiment, the suggestion should also be given that the physical organism will be well protected and comfortable. When you feel your consciousness withdrawing, the first step is this. Forget the physical body or what you are to do with it. Will yourself out in a quick motion. There is no need to experience the hallucinations mentioned by Fox in his book Astral Projection. If the projection is a success, you will instantly lose contact with the body using this method. You simply will not be in it. It will be far from lifeless, of course. Its maintenance is being controlled by the consciousness of the individual cells and organs of which I have spoken. I will give you alternate methods of projection, but I will be concerned now with what you can expect the first few moments after leaving the body. Once you are out of the body, then you are dealing with a different kind of reality, but the experience is as valid as any other. You may or may not have the sensation of traveling through doors or windows. This is dependent upon the kind of projection involved. The molecular structure of the projecting self is of a different nature than that of the physical body. There is no change in the physical nature of the door, for example. The molecular structure of the traveling self changes. There is no danger of returning to the body, generally speaking. If in your projection you seem to be flying past treetops, then you are doing so. You can meet and speak with others on some of these excursions. It is possible, with training, to arrange such meetings. For any kind of scientific proof, of course, this would be a necessary preliminary. Remember that I told you you may visit not only the past, present, or future as it exists, or will exist in your terms, but you may also visit realities that never existed physically. In our early sessions, I mentioned that intensity regulated the duration of experience. Now, many events that were only imagined never took place physically, yet they exist. They simply are not part of your definition of reality. You may therefore visit a museum that was planned in the 16th century, but never built. Such a museum has a reality as valid as the house in which you live. Now, I have been speaking of projection from the trance state. Projection from a dream is something else again, and when executed successfully, you have a fine example of the self as it changes the focus of awareness. Here, the critical consciousness can be fully alert while the body sleeps. Spontaneous, unrecalled projections of this kind happen often. It is beneficial that they be carried out by the conscious wish of the projector. You learn, therefore, to manipulate your own consciousness and to experience its mobility. Quite simply, such projections allow you to practice in dealing with realities that you will meet when you no longer operate in the physical system. So Jane notes here, all through this period I was trying to train myself to come awake while asleep. It serves no purpose to include all of the many dreams of this nature that I recorded, dreams in which I managed to regain my critical senses, sometimes only to fall back into normal dreaming, and sometimes to embark upon conscious experiments. But one experience in particular was very vivid and informative. Excerpts from the following session will show you what I was trying to do. This chapter is going to be split up probably into 2 or 3 videos, so I'm going to stop here. If you want to see the next video, just go to the next one, part 2, for chapter 20.